rewriting the whole script.
Let's do it.
No, we are actually revising, condensing as much as we can, so we're able to shoot it, because right now we can't shoot it. So,
Hooray!
Hey guys, what's up? I'm William Bermudez, and this is Sam Friedman, and we are the co-writers, directors of Grassland, a movie that we made a couple years ago, and that came out this year. And we're going to be chatting about the movie and the process of making it. But yeah, so kind of just wanted to start off with talking about how it all began, like how we met and started like working together, I guess.
yeah, we're taking you behind the scenes today. Will and I met each other right before our freshman year of college. We bonded pretty quickly over a shared love for film and different books and music. We were talking on a Facebook group chat, introducing ourselves to our fellow classmates. Our interests aligned, so we started rooming together. We started filming stuff together very quickly. We worked on all of each other's class projects, homework assignments. I feel like we were just always shooting together, helping each other out. And at a certain point, we were like, we would be great co-directors, and it would be great to write some stuff together. I think just for fun, like coming up with stories that turned into many, many years of doing stuff together, ultimately culminating in making Grassland and hopefully some more stuff to come.
A huge thing was like senior year, we made a concept short after we had written the full feature of Beneath the Grass, it was called then. Definitely the concept short helped us sort of like figure out the characters and just kind of build a smaller world. It happens like after the feature, but it also helped sort of pitch the movie after we were out of school. And I think that was a really good sort of lesson just from film school, and like when you have those resources, taking advantage of that and making something that then you can use to pitch like a larger project. At least that really helped us in the long term.
Something that really helped us when we were first starting out, just in our dynamic together, was we never really shut either of our ideas down. We never held anything too close. It was pretty apparent that we both just wanted to make good stuff. I don't think naturally either of our egos were really tied to the stories that much.
Trying not to have a good or a bad characters, like more gray area stories. I think we would always kind of go with the more complex idea, or the one that like, oh, that's interesting, I hadn't thought about it like that. And I think that helps when you have like two brains going at it, so you're not just like in an echo chamber of your own sort of idea, your first thought.
I don't know, in working with different people, a lot of people will shut you down or like shut down your ideas, or you feel like they're not really listening to you. It's not really a collaboration. I felt that countless times. And I feel like how we realize like this could be a longer term collaboration is we're just kind to each other. I think we hear each other out when we're sharing ideas, and we consider what is best for the project as a whole, and not just like what we might want to do in that moment. You have an idea, it's very easy to become attached to that, and the idea might not even be something you're really committed to or have really thought through, but just because you feel like you want to contribute something, I feel like you get attached to ideas if your partner is not really hearing you out.
So much of film is collaboration and like conversing and listening, and I think starting the idea off with a conversation and sort of something you're coming to together with someone else allows it to be a really collaborative, fun process where you're both trying to figure out the root question of the piece, and then how all the characters relate to that and how the arc relates to that. And I think coming to that with someone else, so then you can also not only communicate that with your collaborator, but also like the whole crew and cast and other people eventually. I think it allows it to be a lot more focused and more fun. Like you can just have a lot more ideas and get at things in a more conversational back and forth way.
We both also wrote a lot of stories as kids, and I feel like a conversation, just making up a story, feels like it's just you writing something down like as fast as you can think it. It feels like a lot of those sparks come out in those moments where you're just kind of playing with it and you're not trying to do anything really serious. And because we were friends, because we were roommates, I think those things happened really naturally. And I think those lead to the best collaborations you have as a filmmaker, is people that you're friends with that then you're like, oh, it's just a good vibe.
And you gotta be vulnerable for it to be like anything that is relatable really at all. Like it has to be from a place of vulnerability or something that you're struggling with or something that is troubling you or you're thinking about a lot, and to be able to share that with the other person, you have to have that like bond to be open with. To go on more of the story of Grassland, like we both moved to LA after going to Pratt in New York, and I was doing like still do like more editing stuff, and Sam does cinematography stuff, and then I was working for Exit 14 Productions, more like commercial production company, and we were lucky enough to meet producers Sam and Jeremy and Adam there who really believed in the script, and Adam met David, the other like core producer, who really just did so much I mean they made the movie happen. And yeah, so we were hugely lucky in who we met and just being at the right place at the right time. But we did have a script and a concept short ready, so I think that's important. And we were just like super passionate about the project and actually cared about it and wanted to make a project that has a deeper message and has more of a social impact than just something that's for entertainment alone.
I mean, we had the script for a couple years. I don't think we're really expecting that we were going to make it anytime soon. So I think all of a sudden it was like, oh wow, we are going to make this, and we need to make it good enough, whether it was like secure the last remaining funds or even our producer like being happy enough with it to being like, let's move forward. So we had multiple rounds of notes with our producer David. He had a system where he would tell us how close it was to being done it was crazy because I felt like we were rushing to make this better and better. I think we did a pretty good job, honestly, at balancing the necessity of getting it done at this time and also just sticking with how we're used to writing scripts, which is very chill, like not a ton of pressure. We needed it done because we needed to start shooting at a certain time.
They were trying to start shooting in the summer, like in June, July, so we had a couple months to like really get it, and we needed that final script to be able to go out to actors to like raise money. So it was a very like, you needed that first thing to go and do the other steps.
And we just worked, we kept revising it over and over again after spending a couple years revising it over and over again. And it got better and better and way tighter.
Yeah.
Not making it too like, oh, this guy's switching. Yeah.
I feel like he would be in arrest mode, like if he's pinned to the ground and he's trying to get his handcuffs out, like I feel like
Definitely.
they had a moment to like look at
David's notes were absolutely incredible, but I think it was our first brush with like, oh, there's some pressure here beyond just being in school and having a homework assignment due.
Yeah, I mean, we'd done commercials and like music videos and stuff like that, but I think like nothing at like that sort of budget scale where people are relying on you, and it's sort of a larger potential opportunity. So you also have the self pressure of like, you really want this to be as good as you can do, because you might not get this chance again. So many people wait so long in their careers to have even an opportunity that's close to that. Like, we just have to like knock this out of the park as much as possible. We both just felt so like lucky and like, do we deserve this, sort of thing. I think it's easy to sort of feel like, oh, am I the one for this? Or like, what's that, the word, privilege for sure, but also
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, like imposter syndrome. I feel like imposter syndrome was very real at that point. You're just like, oh my god, like, you love this story and you know it so well, but such a different scale of bringing in other people and money, and like, are you ready for this? Especially at this age, it can feel intimidating. By the end of the movie and like, some therapy afterwards, you're like, okay, I have more acceptance of who I am, confidence in our abilities and stuff. But at that point, it's like, you haven't made a movie, you made shorts. It's easy to feel like not enough in some way, I think.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that it's definitely like a mental. I think it was really good like having both of us to like check in on each other and like just be able to go through the whole thing together. Luckily we had Veronica. Veronica was like the next step, the DP of Grassland, who was amazing. She had made some movies before, so she definitely like had that knowledge and wisdom of doing the process before, and was able to guide us through sort of the craziness. We met with her a bunch in LA beforehand and started sort of storyboarding shots and scenes, and then we went to New Jersey to Sam's childhood home like a month before shooting with Veronica and Adam, the other producer, and just sort of all were living there and shot listing and figuring out the schedule.
I'm most excited about that first moment when like I feel like you start understanding the flow and you're like, oh yeah, like, just like things start to flow and you're like, you can start piecing the movie together in my mind. I'm most nervous for what's your
like day one, where like knowing the crew isn't like fluid and it's like making sure the first scenes we shoot in the movie aren't crappy.
Mhm.
Everyone's new and it's just like
accurate.
kind of, you know, the chemistry's not there yet.
I am really excited for that feeling that you get of like just being a family with these people. I feel like after the first week, you're like, we are in something together. Like that's very intimate.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to have that experience with you. I'm nervous for it, but also extremely grateful because Veronica tells us like, oh my god, the amount of prep that we're doing for this is like kind of amazing.
Going around to all the locations and sort of literally taking pictures of every single shot in the movie so we could have it all planned out, because it was only going to be an 18-day shoot, so we needed it to be like fully buttoned up and just like ready to go once crew and cast were there. And we were able to like meet with cast as well and have sort of rehearsals solo with them.
How are you feeling?
Jet lagged.
Wait.
Yeah, no worries.
What did you, Sarge? You're kidding. Go on. Be a bitch. Copy that.
And Mia, our main actress, was able to come for a couple days, and we could like work on some scenes and just walk through the different locations and stuff.
Here, just take these.
Are we getting arrested?
Leo! Just do what I say, okay?
I feel like our process, especially choosing to shoot it at my house, like there was a moment where producers were like, oh, we're actually going to shoot it in LA. And it was like, oh my God, this is going to be a completely different film. Like so much of the story was based around that house, and we even wrote it with that specific house in mind, with each individual room in mind. And I think honestly that shows how like more scrappy filmmaking, where you're just like utilizing what you have at your disposal, can lend itself to larger projects, because ultimately shooting at my house, we were able to have a month with just us and Veronica in the house. It's not like we were renting a place and we need to ask for multiple days to like shot list it out. We could be there every single day. We could go around the town, like it was all accessible to us. And obviously we're so lucky that Veronica was generous with sharing. I mean, we shared an apartment together. She was like our sister during this time. Just the fact that we had access to the space was super valuable. So I would say that right where, maybe.
What do you have to say about finishing the schedule?
It's so good, and that's why we made cookies.
Look at that.
Oh, shit.
No, but that's my cookie, but okay.
And we had shot so many short films like throughout college there. Like it was right outside New York, so we would just go and shoot. We wanted a suburban house or like different locations around New Jersey. It was a great place to be, and it's such an old Victorian house and has such good character. It was like perfect for so many projects. So being able to shoot where right where schedule where because you can get in there. I think that's a huge asset, and it already has that like built-in lived-in texture. We're not having to like create this place somewhere else.
Our art department did like an incredible job with elevating that feeling, but just walking into the space, it was kind of like, this is a lived-in space. Like this is very natural. I don't even know if we need to, like, a lot of the first couple scenes take place in the basement, And most of the stuff that's in those shots are stuff that was just in my basement that we moved around.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of the stuff we have on the walls, like in the kitchen, their bedroom, were things we just found in the house too. So like it just goes to show that you have a lot already at your disposal. We went to Mia Maestro, our main actress, her house in LA with Jeff Kober, Quincy Isaiah, 2 producers, Adam and David. We sat around and we read the script for the first time with all of them. Quincy and Mia were already pretty committed to this project, but Jeff was coming in really not knowing what to expect. He came in and was like, I guess that we learned after that he didn't even know that we were directing it.
Yeah, he thought we were like the writers.
He was clearly skeptical in the beginning. When we were done with the script, there was talk beforehand of him cutting his hair because he had very long hair for a role he was playing in General Hospital. Our character, John, is very military guy, has a short haircut. And after we finished reading the script, he was like, I'll cut my hair for you guys. And I was honored in that moment because all of these people, when we were first meeting them, at least for me, I was feeling like, oh, these are real actors, like real in the sense of they've been in stuff, Professional. Quincy was on Winning Time on HBO, like working with people that we look up to. It's just like it felt like it was a different level, and how amazing it was during those couple moments of first meeting these guys. It's like they're just normal people. They're just normal people. We all want to make a good story, and it was a joy working with them on it. And it turned into a collaboration because I don't think Will and I were going in like we know exactly who these people are. We definitely knew them. We knew our interpretation of them, but we allowed our actors and actresses to really step in and create what they think is the most genuine character based on their own life experience, which I think is something that, like, from early on, Will and I were taught, like, if you are going to write about an experience that differs from your own, at least get someone who has had that life experience into the conversation. So I think we were very grateful that our performers fleshed out their own characters, because I don't think that was anything that we could have done our own.
Yeah, and I think, like, even on the same note of, like, us being co-directors and co-writers, like, just on the collaboration front, like, I think we enjoy making stories where everyone's buying into, like, their role and what they can bring to it. So, like, we can sort of set up this character and what they want and all these different things, but, like, it's up to the actor to really embody that and bring in their own ideas. And, you know, we're totally open to, like, the best idea sort of wins, just kind of having an egoless experience, because it's just more fun for everyone. Like, who doesn't want to collaborate on a project that everyone actually cares about? Yeah, and it just makes a better, more complex piece. Like, you can't have the experiences of every human being on earth. You need people to come in and bring their own lived experience, and together you make this way more multi-dimensional thing. Like, I often see the movie and I'm like, oh, we wrote that, or like because, like, you know, it starts as one thing and then it kind of just, even when you're writing it, like, kind of goes into like this other embodiment of art I have no ownership of. It just kind of like writes itself at a certain point. You set up these characters and then they kind of start to, and especially when the actors come in, it's like it turns into this child or something. Like, it's like your offspring or something.
And what was the thing that Jeff said to us at the end? I might not be able to repeat it correctly, but Jeff Kober's last day of filming, he told us about, like, all the different types of directors he's worked with.
Yeah, there's 3 types.
There's 3 types. One of them is, like, do whatever you want to the actors. Like, just roll with it. I don't really care.
One is like, only do exactly what I want. Like, you have to, like, you have no control over anything you do.
And one is leaving it, I think, open
Like
a little bit. Conversation. Like, because all of these characters were created through conversation with our actors. The cultural landscape of film encourages people to want to take a very, like, individualistic, my idea is how it needs to be approach. At least we grew up with a lot of, like, big directors that had a super, super specific vision and executed it very specifically. I at least think of film school and a lot of people that were like, oh, I have this grand vision and it needs to be executed just like this. And ultimately, I'm like, it definitely works for some people, but I think you lose
Spontaneity, like you lose, I mean, more than that too, like you lose the ability to think outside your own little bubble, like, because sometimes someone else has such a great idea, and if you're not open to like listening, and if you're feeling like you're the only one that can control something, you have to let something grow and like develop, and it doesn't have to lose your like deeper meaning that, you know, you should probably keep in there. That's, you know, the core emotion or whatever.
I feel like it also helped that like we were coming from just making short films with our friends. We were on sets, we were on some commercial sets. I think it's different though. I worked as a PA, you worked as a PA more than I did. Like we did a lot of the jobs that then we saw on set. I don't know, there were so many moments of like us trying to help people move stuff and being like, you guys are the directors. And I think in our mind, it was like, this is just a big collaboration. We're all pitching in because we all want to get it done. I think that's the right attitude.
Yeah.
And I think it's tough because you will be told, and we were just talking about this today, you'll be told to kind of like separate yourself into different roles and think that some people have the right to share their ideas, some people don't. If you stick to that reason you started making films, which is just like to collaborate with your friends, I think you will get a lot of very unique and special ideas.
And in that same note of like not forcing something on a process, like not feeling like you need this big, grand, expensive, whatever it is, like equipment or concept, like a lot of the times, oh, we figured out we don't have the budget to shoot in this police office station, so we have to shoot in this cop car, and then it makes that scene much more intimate and we have to rewrite it. But oftentimes that can make the whole process more creative and not your first idea. Just embracing those constraints financially, and yeah, mainly financially, because in the beginning you're not gonna have, you know, a lot to work with. So I think that can do so much, because at least in like writing too, it's just so much easier to like write when you're like, okay, we have to write something that's, you know, in this one location. How do you make that interesting for a whole series or a whole movie? So what was it like? Do you feel like finishing up like production and then was post like surprising to you in any ways?
Let me take another sip of wine before I talk about post.
Sam, what's the hardest process been like for you?
To remain human while continuously working on logistics, and to remember that you do have a life outside of this. Difficult to remember sometimes.
What are you gonna do when this movie's finished?
Probably dig a big hole, crawl inside it, cover it up. We finished shooting, and then 2 weeks later we were back in New York starting to edit. And you know, it was a lot. I think everyone can relate to like when you're committed to something for a while and then all of a sudden it's done, you're back to normal life. I think this exists on any like scale of project. It was rough. At least I was like, felt like I was being tossed around and like all of a sudden had no purpose in life.
We didn't have a huge timeline for post, so we were just like working all the time on it, and I think not having like any space away from the project, especially after shooting and then like while you're editing, so you don't have time to like look back at a cut and reflect. You can just feel like you're in such like a little bubble of hell, like when you've watched the same thing over and over and it's evolved, but now it's like, you know, what would someone who's never seen this think? It's hard to like imagine that. Like
Big time. It's like, especially with a project like our first feature film, we were like wanted to give it so much consideration, and at the same time we were up against a timeline that stretched both of our mental and physical capacities at moments. So we had 2 months to piece this whole thing together, and it's not a lot of time. And we were going in every single day, all day. We would come in early in the morning and we would leave when it was dark. We would just be in the room with our editor, Greg, who every day we were just chipping away. And I feel like I kind of blocked out that time a little bit because it was just day after day of the same thing. There's so many ways you could edit a film. And even watching the film now, it shows sometimes, at least to me, who's maybe, and you, like more ultra sensitive about it. There's so many ways to do it, and we could have edited a whole film and then tried it a completely different way.
You know, so many points in the process were like stuck on something, like, oh, what if we move this scene or cut the scene, like things that we never would have imagined in production. Like our DP while shooting was like, I can't wait to see how this changes, like, and how these scenes move. And we were like, no, like, what are you talking about? But parts of it were moved around, cut, all those things worked out. It's nice to have a little bit of breathing space to see how those things work in real time and not feel like you're being pressured to constantly have a finished thing. So it was tough. I mean, that's just the reality, I think, of like low budget indie film, because you're not gonna have a lot of time or money. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just the reality.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think we still had a good time doing it, because we were, you know, we never lost that sense of like, we're very lucky to be here. Like, we're grateful for this experience. So we definitely made the most of it, but it was definitely trying at times. Is there anything that you feel like you would want to tell your younger self, like, before going into this process?
Okay.
One thing that I just like stood out to me too, like just finishing a movie. I mean, there's definitely, like I touched on it earlier, just like a lot of that sort of just self-acceptance, self-love stuff that like came up, at least for me, and I'm sure for you, just like feeling like, oh, can I do this? And like, am I good enough? Am I like judging yourself and feeling like, oh, you know, am I the right person for this? And a process that's as intense as this really brings that out. So like being able to have people to talk to and like, you know, therapy or whatever, like talk to friends. You know, I think the mental health aspect of being in film is really like not really that talked about, and I think should be, because it's such an intense process. For so long you build up in your head like this is the thing that like you're working on, and like, you know, once you make this, or like once, you know, this is the project, this is the thing to like, you're putting so much value on this like one project or this one thing to make in life. And this probably goes for more than just film. It's like whatever. When that's over, like, okay, well, I did it, like now what? So not sort of feeling like your life is just all in this lead up to this one thing, and more so enjoying the process and knowing that you're never gonna really get anywhere. You're here now, and like that's the process, and enjoying that and not romanticizing like a sort of first feature, because for so long we were like, oh my god, we gotta make Beneath the Grass or Grassland. It's this holy grail type thing, and then once you're done, you're like, oh my god, you know, what now? Just two things of like the greater happiness that aren't sort of related to something that, you know, is in the end just, you know, something you're all working on together, that is something you're really proud of and you love, but like at the end of the day it's important to rationalize and like and be happy. I feel like the whole journey of Grassland like brought up so much like self-discovery of both of us, just like feeling like we can do so much more, and I'm really grateful for that. Like, even, you know, obviously we could see flaws in the film or things that we wish we'd done differently or things we want to do in the next round, but like feeling like, okay, we grew so much in like the whatever it was, year and a half process of the whole movie. Like that feels like such a great just like gift that we were able to do so early on in life. So
I have an issue with like thinking that what I make or what I do is a reflection of who I am as a person. I think that with something like this, where there's $1 million being put into this film, and it's like, yeah, there are some stakes in it, I think that can make those feelings flare up very easily. And just know that it doesn't reflect anything about who you are as a person. It shows maybe your interest or where your creativity, how it's manifested. But as far as like who you are and your value and your self-worth, films you make have nothing to do with that. And I think that's a thing that I've talked to a lot of filmmakers who maybe had success a couple years ago, or even like as a kid had some praise around filmmaking, that are now attached to this idea of, okay, what I produce, what I make is relative to my own value. I don't know, that's something I've dealt with a lot myself, and I think through the process and through how humbling the work is, at the end of every day, you're like, you can tell yourself a story of how you could have done so much better that day, but you really just did the best you can do because it's a really tough day. I'm not going to continue to hold myself to this like imaginary standard in my head.
Yeah.
And instead I'm just going to be like, just do the best you can. Like you're,
We're all learning. Like
we're all learning. We're all
What did
learning.
Jeff say like he had to forget everything that he'd ever
He
known
knew
about
about
acting.
acting.
Like,
Yeah.
it's true. Like, I mean, we haven't done another movie, but like, I'm sure you just kind of constantly have to like forget everything you thought you knew and just come in with as little ego as possible. And I think another thing we didn't really touch on fully is just like the social impact stuff of the movie and raising funds for getting incarcerated people out of jail that have been incarcerated for cannabis, and like the producers actually hiring incarcerated people on set, and even just regular people on set, being able to get people money, like that is a huge underrated thing of film, like just employing people and giving people opportunities and raising money for impact campaigns. I think that stuff has such real world importance. That's so much more impactful than like your neuroses about how good you're directing a scene, or like, oh, I should have done that or whatever. Like, there's so much more important bigger things that are affecting people in the world, especially with the themes in the movie. So like, I mean, that was always sort of like an easy thing to kind of take me out of like some of the neuroses that I would experience.
It's easy to think of film as like it is a game. Like you're playing around for sure, but if you're writing about a topic that is really affecting people, or that in this case like 40,000 people are still in prison for the things that we were discussing in our film, I think there is some responsibility there to highlight the real world implication of the problem that you're discussing in your film. You want to really honor the subject that you're talking about. If you're writing about something serious or something with real world implications, then I think it's important to know the people behind this issue, the people that are still suffering. It's interesting to watch intensity and violence and people struggling, and I think that we can forget that there's like people behind the screen, people that are never going to be able to watch the films that we create, that we're talking about. But a lot of people don't have that relationship. And I mean, I'm not to say we were perfect in that way, but there was an attempt.
Right.
The idea of the film was born because my mom, for a lot of my life, grew cannabis to support myself, my dad when he wasn't working. And this was at a time where in New Jersey, it was extremely illegal. And not only could my mom have gone to jail, but our landlady could have lost her house. I mean, it was a very stressful thing throughout my life that my mom told me to keep secret. Obviously, don't discuss it. Like, couldn't have a lot of people over my house. I didn't really understand legality and what about this specifically was so dangerous or wrong that it should be this level of illegal. It started with a already existing connection to like a person that could have been and was affected, but my mom she didn't go to jail. Like, she was ultimately fine.
It was like a worst case scenario.
It was a worst case scenario. It was something that we were scared of. What was important for us to do was writing that story and creating this hypothetical that was based around my mom, but again, didn't happen to her. We had to look into what the real life consequences of this are, how people are actually affected, current policies even around the legalization of cannabis, how that brushed over a lot of the wrongdoings that we've inflicted onto cannabis users in this country. The personal story led to us just generally being interested of what are the real life implications of this. Again, credit to our producers, like bringing that even more into reality by raising funds for the Last Prisoner Project, by hiring formerly incarcerated people, having conversations with people on set and in subsequent events that we did to promote the film who had actually been to jail for decades for possessing cannabis. It was in those moments that you're really like, oh shit, like this is we're not just writing a story. This isn't like the stories we would write as kids where we're just kind of like free balling. It's like anything could happen. Like if we are trying to approach a serious subject, we need to take it really seriously. And I think there's always learning to do with that. I think we're in a constant state of learning to do better. I think there's a lot of filmmakers out there that want to tell different types of stories, but either A, maybe don't look into it enough to tell a genuine and honest story, or B, don't even know where to start on that. Like, know that there's something important in a subject, but don't want to step over a line or a boundary or anything like that. And it's like, just really learn about it. Like, learn about it, discuss it with people who are actually experiencing it. Because you can do it. You just need to educate yourself.
And I think like the other thing too is like, obviously all of that research and knowledge and of the subject, but also like coming at it from a personal, just human emotional perspective. Like I know we bonded over sort of a shared feeling of like a parent working a lot as a kid and not really understanding that. And then as we got older and we went to college, like, oh wow, like all that work they did was for us. And so sort of just bringing that core emotion into the characters and even like, my dad immigrating to the US and like all the sort of things he had to do to fit in as a kid, sort of witnessing American lives. A lot of the movies, like, from these little kids' perspectives of adults living in America and all the weird systems and like racial codes and just kind of disturbing stuff that we take for granted as adults. A lot of that, if it comes from just a place of lived experience or like an authentic just search for the truth and wanting to share, an emotional truth, I think that carries so much honesty and weight, irregardless of all the, other like actual facts and sort of like, stuff that needs to be realistic in there. As long as you have that core emotional component, I think that's like very key.